Hey there. Tonight we're doing something a little different, a little incendiary. We're stepping into the life of a blacksmith in the Dark Ages, somewhere around the 8th century, if you're keeping track, which you probably aren't because you're trying to fall asleep. This is not a story about forging legendary swords or crafting armor for heroes. This is about standing in front of a fire that's trying to kill you for 12 hours a day while making nails. Hundreds of nails. Thousands of nails. Nails that hold together a world that will never remember your name. This is about heat that doesn't stop. About an apprentice who keeps ruining your work. About a master who watches you like you're stealing from him. Which you're not, because there's nothing worth stealing, except the idea that you might one day own your own forge. Spoiler, you won't. Before we begin, go ahead and like the video if you enjoy what we do here. Subscribe if you'd like more of this. More historically accurate drudgery narrated with the enthusiasm it deserves. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. All of us united in our appreciation for the finer points of medieval occupational hazards. Now, dim the lights. Get comfortable. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum that drowns out the existential questions. Let's begin. The fire is always dying. That's the first thing you need to understand about being a blacksmith. The fire. The thing that is your entire livelihood. The thing without which you are just a person standing in a sooty room holding a hammer, is always in the process of going out. It needs constant attention, constant feeding, constant coaxing back from the edge of cold death. You arrive before dawn. You always arrive before dawn because the master arrives at dawn, and if the forge isn't already hot when he gets there, you'll hear about it. You'll hear about it in the specific way that medieval employers communicated dissatisfaction, which is to say, loudly, personally, and with references to your parentage. The workshop is cold. It's always cold in the morning, even in summer, because stone holds cold the way it holds everything else, with indifference and permanence. Your breath makes clouds. Your hands are stiff. You can see them in the thin pre-dawn light coming through the gaps in the walls. Because this building was constructed by someone who understood that blacksmiths need ventilation more than they need warmth, or comfort, or protection from the wind. The forge is a clay-lined pit in the centre of the room. Yesterday's ashes are still there, grey and lifeless, with maybe, a few embers buried deep that haven't given up yet. You kneel beside it. Your knees hurt. They always hurt in the morning now, ever since you turned 30, which in blacksmith years is approximately 70. You push aside the top layer of ash with your hands. Bare hands, because gloves are expensive, and also because you need to feel whether there's any heat left. There isn't. The forge is cold. Completely cold. Which means the apprentice didn't bank it properly last night. Which means you're going to have to start from scratch, which means you're already behind. You don't curse. Cursing wastes breath. And you're going to need your breath. Starting a forge fire from nothing is not romantic. It's not the moment where the hero discovers their calling or whatever. It's a tedious, specific process that requires materials you may or may not have enough of, depending on whether the master remembered to order charcoal and whether the charcoal seller remembered to deliver it, and whether anyone stole it from the pile outside. You check the charcoal pile. It's low. Of course it's low. You take what's there. Chunks of burned wood that are somehow both lighter and denser than they should be, black and brittle and expensive. and you arrange them in the forge pit. Not randomly. There's a structure to this. Air needs to flow through. The pieces need to be small enough to catch, but large enough to sustain. You're building a specific kind of architecture, except instead of stone, you're using carbon, and instead of mortar, you're using hope. Tinder next. You keep a box of it near the forge. Dry grass, wood shavings, scraps of cloth that are too burned to be useful for anything else. You nestle a small pile of this into the center of your charcoal structure. Then you need fire. Fire comes from the house. The house is attached to the workshop because of course it is. Because there is no separation between your work and your life. Between the place where you labor and the place where you're supposed to rest. The hearth in the house, where your spouse cooks, where you theoretically sleep, has been burning all night because letting a house fire go out completely is its own kind of disaster. You walk through the doorway. Your spouse is already awake, moving quietly in the dim light, preparing something that might be breakfast. You don't speak. There's nothing to say at this hour. You take a small clay pot, scoop a few embers from the hearth, and carry them back to the forge. The embers glow orange in the pot. They're beautiful, in the way that dangerous things are beautiful. You tip them carefully into your tinder nest. The grass catches immediately, a small, eager flame that thinks it's going to live forever. You're already reaching for the bellows. The bellows are leather and wood, hung on a frame beside the forge. They're operated by hand, a long wooden handle that you push down, which forces air through a nozzle into the base of the fire. Air is what fire eats. Air is what turns a small flame into an inferno. You push the handle. Once. Twice. The fire brightens. The tinder is fully involved now, and the smallest pieces of charcoal are starting to catch. You keep pumping. Your shoulder is already complaining. You've been awake for maybe 20 minutes. The charcoal begins to glow. Not all of it, just the pieces closest to the center where the air is flowing. They go from black to red to orange, and the heat starts to radiate outward. You can feel it on your face. Not warm yet, just the promise of warm. You add more charcoal. Carefully. Too much and you'll smother it. Too little and it won't sustain. You're a nurse tending a patient who might die at any moment. Except the patient is fire and the disease is entropy. More bellows. Your arm is moving in a rhythm now. Push, release. Push, release. The fire grows. The workshop begins to fill with smoke, thin and grey, rising toward the holes in the roof that are supposed to let it out, but mostly just let rain in. The apprentice arrives. He's young. 15, maybe 16. Still has all his fingers. Still thinks this is a trade with a future. He stumbles in through the door, rubbing his eyes, and sees you at the bellows. Fire's not ready, he says. Not a question. An accusation. Fire's getting there, you say. You don't stop pumping. He should offer to take over the bellows. That's what apprentices are for. The repetitive, exhausting tasks that destroy your body slowly, instead of all at once. But he doesn't offer. He's still learning the rhythms of this place. Still learning that initiative is punished less than laziness, but not by much. The apprentice's face tells you everything. That particular combination of defensiveness and confusion that means he thinks he did something right when he absolutely didn't. You know this expression. You wore it yourself once, back when you still believed effort and intention were the same thing as competence. The fire was dead when you arrived. Completely cold, not banked, not smothered properly under ash to keep the embers alive through the night. Just dead. Which means he either didn't bank it at all, or did something that looked like banking without understanding what banking actually requires. You don't stop pumping the bellows. The fire is strong now, a bed of glowing coals that radiates heat in waves. You can feel it pushing against your face, your chest, your arms. The workshop is transforming from cold to hot without ever passing through comfortable. The apprentice is still standing there, waiting for something. Instruction, maybe, or absolution. He's not getting either. Next time, and there will be a next time, because he won't remember this, won't internalize it until he's made this mistake a dozen more times. He needs to use more ash, needs to cover the embers completely. They need to suffocate slowly, not die. But explaining this now, while you're pumping bellows and he's still half asleep and defensive, won't accomplish anything. The lesson will come through repetition and failure, the way all lessons do in this trade. The master arrives. You hear him before you see him. Boots on the packed earth outside. The particular heavy tread of a man who owns things. He comes through the door and surveys the scene, you at the bellows, the apprentice standing uselessly, the forge glowing. His eyes go to the fire first, then to you, then to the apprentice, then back to the fire. He's calculating, always calculating. How long has the fire been going? How much fuel has been used? How much work has been lost to a cold start? The master exists in a reality where everything should happen faster, cost less, and produce more. Your job is to inhabit that reality with him, even though it's physically impossible. So you don't explain about the cold forge, or the apprentice's failure, or the extra time needed to coax dead coals back to life. You just keep pumping until the fire is exactly where it needs to be. He walks to the workbench where yesterday's projects are laid out. A set of hinges for a church door, 3 dozen nails, a broken plough blade that needs reforging. He picks up one of the hinges, examines it, puts it down. His fingers trace the curve of the metal, looking for flaws, finding none, which doesn't improve his mood because finding flaws would at least give him something to complain about. The hinges need to be delivered by midday. The church is waiting. The church is always waiting, and churches have long memories about tradesmen who disappoint them. The nails too, all of them, finished and counted. And the plough blade, the cracked one, the one that needs to be heated, folded, welded back together, reheated, shaped, cooled, sharpened. 4 hours of work, minimum. Probably 5. You look at the plough blade. You look at the hinges. You look at the nails. You do the math. The math doesn't work. There aren't enough hours between now and midday to complete everything to the standard the master expects and the guild requires. But the master is already thinking about something else. The next order, the next customer, the next problem. You are a tool that solves problems, and as long as you keep solving them, he doesn't need to think about you. He leaves. The apprentice looks at you. His face is asking a question. His mouth isn't stupid enough to voice. Can we actually do all that by midday? No, obviously not. But you're going to try anyway, because that's how this works. You attempt the impossible. You fail in predictable ways, and tomorrow you do it again. You stop pumping the bellows. The fire is ready. The coals are white hot in the center, orange at the edges, and the heat is a physical presence in the room now, a pressure against your skin. This is where you live, in front of this fire, for the next 12 hours. Let's talk about what heat actually does. Not metaphorical heat, not the heat of passion, or the heat of battle, or whatever poetic nonsense people who don't work forges like to imagine. Actual heat. The kind that comes from burning carbon at temperatures high enough to make iron glow. The forge, when it's fully operational, burns at around 1000 degrees. That's 1000 degrees Celsius, if you're keeping track in units that won't be invented for another several centuries. In terms you'd understand, it's hot enough to make metal soft, hot enough to make metal move, hot enough to make metal forget it was ever solid. You stand approximately 3 feet from this, for 12 hours, every day. Your face is the first thing that learns to hate you. The skin on your cheeks, your forehead, your nose, it's constantly exposed to radiant heat, not the comfortable warmth of a hearth fire, not the pleasant heat of summer sun. This is heat that feels like violence, heat that makes your skin tight and dry, and eventually, over years, thick and leathery in a way that makes you look older than you are. You sweat, immediately and constantly. Your body is trying to cool itself, which is adorable, because your body is fighting a losing battle against thermodynamics. The sweat runs down your face, your neck, your back. It soaks into your tunic, rough wool or linen, depending on what you can afford, which is not much. The fabric clings to you. It never dries. You exist in a state of permanent dampness. Your eyes water. The smoke does that. Charcoal smoke isn't clean. It's full of particles. Tiny fragments of burned wood that float in the air and get into everything. Your eyes, your nose, your throat, your lungs. You blink constantly. Your vision is always slightly blurred. By the end of the day, your eyes are red and painful. And you'll go home, and they'll still be red and painful. And you'll wake up tomorrow and do it again. You learn to breathe shallowly. Deep breaths bring more smoke into your lungs, and your lungs are already compromised. There's a cough that blacksmiths develop. A deep, rattling cough that never quite goes away. It's the sound of your lungs trying to expel particles they can't expel. Some blacksmiths cough blood. You're not there yet. Yet. The heat makes you thirsty. Desperately. Constantly thirsty. There's a bucket of water near the forge. Lukewarm, slightly ashy, shared by everyone in the workshop. You drink from it with a ladle. The water tastes like smoke. Everything tastes like smoke. Your mouth is always dry. Your lips crack and bleed. You lick them without thinking, which makes it worse. Your hands are a special kind of disaster. You're holding metal. Hot metal. Metal that's been in the forge, glowing orange or yellow or white depending on what you're doing with it. You hold it with tongs, long iron pincers that keep your hands away from the worst of the heat. But the tongs conduct heat. Not as much as the metal itself, but enough. The wooden handles of the tongs get warm, then hot, then almost too hot to hold. You hold them anyway. Your palms develop calluses, thick, hard patches of skin that are your body's attempt to protect itself. The calluses crack. The cracks get ash and metal particles in them. They don't heal properly because you're using your hands again the next day and the day after that. Some of the cracks get infected. You ignore them. Everyone ignores them. Infected hands are part of the job description. Burns are inevitable. Not occasional. Inevitable. You will be burned. Multiple times. Every day. Sometimes it's a spark. A tiny fragment of hot metal that pops off when you're hammering. It lands on your arm, your hand, your neck. It burns through fabric. It burns into skin. You brush it off and keep working because stopping means the metal in the forge is getting too hot or too cold, and either way you're ruining the piece. Sometimes it's contact. You misjudge the distance. You reach for something, and your forearm brushes against a piece of hot metal. The pain is immediate and clarifying. Your skin sizzles. The smell is distinct burned flesh, which is different from burned wood or burned fabric. It's a smell you'll never forget and never get used to. Sometimes it's the water. When you're done shaping a piece of metal, you quench it, plunge it into water to cool it rapidly. This is necessary. This is how you harden steel, how you set the shape, how you finish the work. But when hot metal hits water, the water explodes into steam, violently. The steam rises in a cloud, and if you're leaning over the quenching bucket, which you are because you need to see what you're doing, the steam hits your face. Steam burns are worse than dry burns. The heat is wet. It penetrates. It gets into your pores. Your face will be red and blistered, and you'll look like you have some kind of disease. And people in the street will avoid you, and you'll go back to the forge tomorrow and do it again. Your scars have scars. Look at your arms. They're a map of every mistake you've made and every mistake you couldn't avoid. Small circular burns from sparks. Long streaks from contact with hot metal. Patches where the skin healed wrong, shiny and tight, and a different color from the rest of you. Some of the scars are numb. Some of them hurt when the weather changes. All of them are permanent. You don't have eyebrows anymore. They burned off years ago. They try to grow back, but they never quite make it. You look perpetually surprised or perpetually angry depending on the light. Your hair is singed at the edges. You keep it short because long hair is a fire hazard, but short hair still gets singed. The ends are brittle and broken. You smell like burned hair even when your hair isn't actively burning. The heat does something to your breathing, not just the smoke, the heat itself. You're inhaling air that's been superheated by proximity to the forge. Your throat is always raw. Your lungs feel tight. There's a pressure in your chest that never quite goes away. You tell yourself it's normal. Everyone who works a forge feels this way. That's true. It's also not comforting. You drink more water. The bucket is empty. The apprentice is supposed to refill it, but he's busy ruining a piece of metal at the anvil. You go outside to the well, draw more water, carry it back. The bucket is heavy. Your arms are already tired. It's not even midday yet. Back to the forge. There's a rhythm to this work, but it's not a comfortable rhythm. It's the rhythm of urgency and repetition. You take a piece of iron stock, a rough bar of metal that came from somewhere else, smelted by someone else, sold by someone else, and now it's your problem. You push it into the coals. The metal disappears into the glowing bed of the forge. You wait. Not long. Maybe a minute. Maybe two. You're watching the color. Iron changes color as it heats. First it's black, then dark red, then bright red, then orange, then yellow, then white. Each color corresponds to a temperature, and each temperature corresponds to what you can do with the metal. You need orange for most work, yellow if you're welding, white if you're doing something delicate or stupid. The metal reaches orange. You pull it out with the tongs. It glows in the dim workshop like a piece of captured sun. You carry it to the anvil. 3 steps. Quickly, because the metal is already cooling. And you set it on the scarred iron surface. You pick up the hammer. The hammer is heavier than it should be. It's always heavier than it should be. 3 pounds, maybe 4. A wooden handle worn smooth by years of hands that aren't yours. The head is steel, flat on one side, slightly rounded on the other, It's the most important tool you own. Except, you don't own it. The master owns it. You just hold it. You raise the hammer and bring it down. The sound is everything. A sharp, ringing impact that echoes off the stone walls. The metal flattens slightly under the blow. You hit it again and again. You're not smashing randomly. You're shaping. Each strike moves the metal in a specific direction. You're thinking 3 strikes ahead where the metal needs to go, how much force, what angle. The metal cools as you work. The orange fades to red. The red fades to dark red. You have maybe 30 seconds before it's too cool to shape effectively. 30 seconds to do as much work as possible before you have to put it back in the forge and start over. You make 6 strikes. 7. 8. The metal is cooling. You return it to the forge. Push it back into the coals. Wait for it to heat again. This is the cycle. Heat. Strike. Cool. Repeat. You'll do this 100 times today. 200. You'll lose count. Your arm is already tired. The hammer is heavy. Each strike requires your whole body, legs, core, shoulders, arm. You're not just moving the hammer, you're throwing your weight behind it. By the end of the day, your entire body will ache. But that's later. Right now, you're still fresh, still strong, still capable of pretending this is sustainable. The apprentice is at the other anvil. He's working on something simple. A nail. Just a nail. You've made thousands of nails. Tens of thousands. Nails are the bread and butter of blacksmithing. Nails hold the world together. Nails are boring and essential and mind-numbing. The apprentice is making his nail wrong. You can tell from the sound. The hammer strikes are uneven. Too hard, then too soft, then at the wrong angle. The rhythm is off. He's fighting the metal instead of working with it. You don't say anything yet. Let him finish. Let him make his mistake completely so he can learn from it. He pulls the nail from the forge. It's glowing orange. He sets it on the anvil and strikes it, the head of the nail. The flat part that you hit with a different hammer later is lopsided. He strikes it again, trying to correct it. The metal is cooling. He's running out of time. He strikes it a third time, too hard, and the nail bends. He's made a bent nail. He stares at it. You can see the realization spreading across his face. That particular expression of someone doing the math on their own failure. He's just wasted iron. He's just wasted time. He's just wasted charcoal heating the forge, and the master is going to notice. His eyes flick to you, then to the forge, then back to the bent nail in his tongs. You don't move. Don't nod. Don't give him anything. This is his mistake to solve. He stands there for a long moment. His hands are shaking slightly. You can see it in the way the tongs tremble. Fear. Good. Fear makes you careful. Fear keeps you from making the same mistake twice. Fear is the only teacher that actually works in this trade. He turns back to the forge, pushes the bent nail back into the coals. His movements are deliberate now, careful. He's thinking through what went wrong. The angle, the force, the timing. Whether any of this can be salvaged. The nail heats. He watches it, waiting for the color to shift from dull red to bright orange. He's learning that bent isn't ruined. Ruined is when you drop it in the quenching bucket and it cracks in half. Bent you can fix. Bent is just another step in the process. He pulls it out, sets it on the anvil. This time his strikes are measured, controlled. He's not fighting the metal anymore. He's working with it. The nail straightens. The head reshapes. It's not perfect. It'll never be perfect. But it's usable. Close enough. That's the standard you live by. That's the standard he's learning. You return to your own work. The hinge you're making is coming together. It's a simple design. A long iron strap with a loop at one end that will fit over a pin. The church door will have 6 of these. You're on number 4. You need to finish 6 by midday, which is impossible. But you're going to try anyway, because the alternative is explaining to the master why you failed. The metal is hot again. You pull it out, set it on the anvil, and begin the process of forming the loop. This requires precision. The loop needs to be round enough to rotate smoothly, but tight enough to stay on the pin. You use a mandrel, a tapered iron rod, to shape it. You wrap the hot metal around the mandrel and hammer it into place. The metal fights you. It always fights you. Metal doesn't want to be shaped. Metal wants to be a formless lump. You're imposing order on chaos, and chaos resents it. You strike. Adjust. Strike again. The loop is forming. It's not perfect, but it's close enough. Close enough is the standard you live by. Perfect takes too long. Perfect doesn't pay. You quench the hinge. The water explodes into steam. Your face is hit by the cloud of heat. Your eyes water. You pull the hinge out of the bucket and set it aside to finish cooling. 4 down. 2 to go. The apprentice is still working on his nail. He's reheated it twice now. The nail is shorter than it should be because he's lost material to scale. The black crust that forms on hot iron when it oxidizes. Every time you heat metal, you lose a little bit of it to scale. It flakes off. It falls into the forge. It's gone. He's learning this now. He's learning that mistakes compound. That wasted time means wasted material, means wasted money, means the master's anger. You're about to start the 5th hinge when the door opens. A customer. Not the master. An actual customer. A man you don't recognize. Middle-aged, reasonably well-dressed. The kind of person who owns land but works it himself. A farmer, probably. He's holding something. He stands in the doorway like he's not sure he's allowed to enter. His clothes are decent but worn in specific places. Knees, elbows, the seat of his trousers. Working clothes. The kind that get mended until there's more patch than original fabric. His hands are calloused in different places than yours. Soil and wood handles instead of hammer and tongs. He's holding a plough blade, broken. You can see it from across the room. The clean snap through the centre. The way he's cradling it like it's worth more than it is. Which to him, it probably is. You don't stop working. You pull the next piece of hinge stock from the forge and set it on the anvil. You strike it once, twice. You're watching him in your peripheral vision, waiting to see if he'll speak or if he'll just stand there until you acknowledge him. He takes 2 steps inside. Stops. His eyes go to the forge, the anvils, the hammers, the soot covering every surface. He's doing the mental calculation everyone does when they enter a blacksmith shop. Trying to figure out if you're competent, if you're busy, if you're going to charge him fairly. You set down your hammer. You wipe your hands on your apron, which accomplishes nothing because your apron is filthy. You walk over. He holds out the plough blade without saying anything. His face is doing something complicated. Embarrassment mixed with desperation. mixed with the particular resignation of someone who knows they're about to spend money they don't have. You take the blade from him. The break is bad. The metal has fractured along a weak point, probably a flaw in the original forging, or maybe just age and stress. You run your thumb along the edge of the break. The metal is cold, brittle. This isn't a fresh break. He's been trying to use it broken for at least a few days, maybe longer. Fixing it means heating both sides, scarfing the edges, overlapping them, welding them together with hammer blows, then reshaping the entire blade. 4 hours of work, minimum. Probably 5 if the weld doesn't take on the first try. You look at him. He's watching your face, trying to read whether this is fixable or whether he's about to be told he needs to buy a new blade entirely. His jaw is tight. His hands are clenched at his sides. You nod once. Yes. Fixable. His shoulders drop slightly. Relief. Then immediate tension again, because now comes the next question. How long? How much? Whether he can afford either answer. You hold up 2 fingers. 2 days. That's the realistic timeline. That's how long it actually takes to do this properly. His face does something. Not anger. Worse. Panic. He shakes his head, points at the sun through the open door, points at the blade. His meaning is clear. He needs it today. Now. As soon as possible. You shake your head. You point at the forge, at the other projects scattered around the workshop, at the apprentice still struggling with his nails. You're busy. You're always busy. Today isn't possible. He's doing math in his head. You can see it. How much work he can do with a broken plough versus how much work he'll lose waiting for you. Whether he can borrow a plough from a neighbour, whether his neighbour even has a plough to lend, whether he's already late enough that another day will ruin him entirely. You hold up 1 finger. Tomorrow evening. That's the compromise. That's the lie that might become true if you skip sleep and work through the night and nothing else goes wrong. He considers this. His face is still tight, still calculating. But there's a shift. Acceptance. He nods. Now comes the other question, the one that's always harder than the timeline. You think about what the guild regulations say you're allowed to charge for a weld repair. You think about what the master will actually charge, which is always more. You think about the time, the materials, the difficulty. You think about this man's clothes, his hands, the desperation in the way he's standing. You hold up 4 fingers. 4 pennies. His face does something complicated. 4 pennies is expensive. 4 pennies is also cheap for the amount of work involved. 4 pennies is the price of his survival versus your survival, and neither of you is winning. He holds up 3 fingers. 3 pennies. His face is asking a question. Can you do it for 3? Will you do it for 3? Please do it for 3, because that's what he has. You're not authorized to negotiate. The master handles prices. But the master isn't here, and this man is. And if you send him away, he'll go to another blacksmith, and you'll have lost the work entirely. You hold up 3 fingers. Then make a gesture. A small motion with your hand, like splitting something in half. 3.5 pennies. He stares at you. He's doing more math. Whether 3.5 pennies is close enough to 3 that he can make it work. Whether he can find the extra half penny somewhere. Whether he has any choice at all. He nods. Slowly. Once. You point at the door. Then at the sky. Then hold up 1 finger again. Tomorrow evening. Not tomorrow morning. Tomorrow evening. That's the deal. He nods again. He sets the plough blade down on your workbench carefully, like it's fragile, which it is. He looks at you for a long moment. His face is trying to communicate something. Gratitude, maybe. Or just the shared understanding of two people trapped in systems neither of them controls. He leaves. You're holding a broken piece of metal that represents several hours of work you don't have time for. You add it to the pile of things you need to do today. The apprentice has finished his nail. It's still wrong. The head is uneven. The shaft is slightly bent, but it's close enough to pass. He holds it up for your inspection. You glance at it. Nod once. Then you gesture at the pile of unfinished nail stock on the workbench. Then at the forge. Then back at him. Your meaning is clear. His face does something. The small flicker of pride from completing one nail dies immediately. He looks at the pile. You can see him counting. Doing the math. 3 dozen nails needed by midday. He's made 1. 1. His shoulders drop. Not dramatically. Just that small collapse that happens when someone realizes the scope of what's being asked of them. When they understand that the work isn't going to end. That finishing one thing just means starting the next. That there is no moment of rest coming. You're already turning back to your hinge. You don't have time to watch him process this. The hinges need finishing. The plough blades are waiting. The master will be back to check progress. The church is expecting delivery. The apprentice returns to the forge. His movements are slower now. Heavier. He picks up another piece of nail stock. Pushes it into the coals. Pumps the bellows with the particular rhythm of someone who's just realized their day is going to be much longer than they thought. You strike your hinge. The metal shapes properly. You're not thinking about the apprentice anymore. You're thinking about your own impossible timeline. About the work that needs to happen in hours that don't exist. He'll make his nails. Or he won't. Either way, you'll be the one who answers for it. The 5th hinge goes smoothly. The metal cooperates. Your strikes are accurate. The loop forms properly. You quench it and set it aside. 1 more to go. The 6th hinge does not go smoothly. You're tired. Your arm is tired. Your concentration is slipping. You pull the metal from the forge and it's too hot yellow instead of orange. You should put it back and let it cool slightly. But you're behind schedule and you're rushing and you set it on the anvil anyway. You strike it. The metal is too soft. Your hammer sinks into it instead of shaping it. You've deformed it. You strike again, trying to correct it, but the metal is already cooling and now it's uneven and you're making it worse. You stop. You breathe. You put the ruined hinge back in the forge. This is the part where you have to decide. Do you start over with new metal, which will take longer but produce a better result? Or do you try to salvage this piece, which will be faster but might produce something substandard? You try to salvage it. Time is more valuable than quality right now. You reheat the hinge. You work carefully, methodically, fixing the deformation. It takes 3 heats. 4. The metal is getting shorter because of scale loss. The hinge is going to be slightly smaller than the others, but maybe no one will notice. You finish it. It's not good. It's acceptable. It'll hold a door. That's all it needs to do. You quench it. Steam. Pain. Red face. Watering eyes. 6 hinges. Done. You set them on the workbench for the master to inspect. He'll notice the 6th one is wrong. He'll say something. You'll nod and take it. And tomorrow you'll be more careful. Except tomorrow there will be a different crisis, and you'll make a different mistake. The apprentice has made 7 nails. He needs 13 more. He's working faster now, but faster means sloppier. 3 of his 7 nails are bent. You don't tell him. Let the master tell him. Let the master be the one who explains that bent nails are worthless, that he's wasted materials, that he's costing money. You turn your attention to the first plough blade, the one the master assigned you this morning. It's sitting on the workbench, cracked through the center, waiting. This is going to take hours. You pick it up. The metal is cold, heavy, dead. You need to bring it back to life. You push it into the forge. The blade is large, too large to fit entirely into the coals. You have to heat it in sections. First one side of the crack, then the other. The metal glows. You pull it out and examine the fracture. The edges of the crack are rough, oxidized, contaminated. You need to clean them. You take a chisel and hammer and carefully scarf the edges. Cut them at an angle so they'll overlap when you weld them. This is delicate work. If you remove too much material, the blade will be too thin. If you don't remove enough, the weld won't hold. You scarf one side, then the other. Metal shavings fall to the floor. You're creating more work for later. Someone will have to sweep these up, and that someone is probably you. Both edges are scarfed. Now comes the hard part. You heat both sides of the blade until they're yellow hot, almost white. You need them as hot as possible without melting them. You pull the blade from the forge and quickly position the 2 edges together, overlapping them the way you scarfed them. You strike. The hammer blow needs to be perfect. Too hard, and you'll deform the blade. Too soft, and the weld won't take. You're trying to forge weld, to literally hammer the 2 pieces of metal into one continuous piece. This only works if the metal is hot enough, clean enough, and if you strike with exactly the right force. You strike again, and again. You're working fast because the metal is cooling. You can see the color fading from yellow to orange. You have seconds. The weld is taking. Maybe. You can't tell yet. You put the blade back in the forge to reheat it. You'll need to do this multiple times. Heat, strike, until you're confident the weld is solid. Your arm is screaming. Each hammer blow sends a shock through your shoulder, your elbow, your wrist. You're going to feel this tomorrow. You feel it now. You reheat the blade. Pull it out. Strike. The weld is holding. You think. You hope. You reheat it again. Strike again. You're shaping the blade now, smoothing out the area around the weld, trying to make it look like the crack was never there. It takes 6 heats. 7. Your arm is numb. Your face is burned. Your eyes are streaming. The blade is finished. Probably. You won't know if the weld is truly solid until someone uses it and it either holds or breaks. You quench it. The steam is a punishment. You deserve it. The blade is done. You set it aside. 1 plough blade fixed, 1 to go. You look at the second plough blade, the one the farmer brought in. You look at the angle of the sun coming through the gaps in the walls. It's past midday. You've missed the deadline for the hinges and the nails. The master is going to be unhappy. The master returns. You hear his boots first. That particular heavy tread that means someone is about to assess your failures in precise detail. He enters, and his eyes go immediately to the workbench where the 6 hinges are laid out. He doesn't greet you, doesn't acknowledge the apprentice, just walks directly to the hinges and begins his inspection. He picks up the first one, turns it over, examines the curve, the holes, the finish, sets it down, picks up the second, same process, third, fourth, fifth. Then the sixth. His hand stops. You can see it from across the room. The way his fingers trace the length of the hinge, measuring it against the others. The way his jaw tightens slightly. He sets it down next to the fifth hinge. The difference is visible even from where you're standing. The sixth hinge is shorter. Not dramatically. Just enough. He looks at you. Doesn't say anything. Just looks. His face is doing that thing it does when he's calculating losses. When he's deciding whether to dock your pay or make you work extra hours, or both. You know what he's thinking. The church ordered 6 matching hinges, 6 identical hinges. These are not identical. The 6th one is short because you overheated it, had to rework it, lost material to scale. The church isn't going to pay full price for mismatched hinges. The church is going to complain. The church has a long memory about tradesmen who deliver substandard work. The master sets the short hinge down with more force than necessary. Not quite a slam, just enough to communicate his displeasure. Then he turns to the apprentice. The apprentice is standing at his anvil, surrounded by bent nails, looking like he wishes he could disappear into the soot-covered walls. The master walks over, looks at the pile of finished nails, counts them. His lips move slightly as he does the math. 7. 7 nails. In 6 hours of work. His face does something. Not anger exactly. Worse. Disappointment mixed with the particular resignation of someone who's just realized they're paying for incompetence. He picks up one of the nails. Examines it. The head is uneven. The shaft has a slight bend. It's usable, but barely. He sets it down. Picks up another. Same problems. He's not looking at the apprentice. He's looking at the nails. But the apprentice is shrinking anyway. His shoulders pulling inward. His face going pale. The master's silence is worse than yelling. Yelling you can defend against. Silence just sits there, heavy and accusatory, while you stand in it and feel yourself being judged. He sets the last nail down, looks at the apprentice. The look says everything. You're costing me money. Your education is expensive. You're producing 1 nail per hour when a competent blacksmith produces 12. You're learning, which means you're failing, which means I'm paying for your failures. The apprentice doesn't move, doesn't speak, just stands there taking it. The master turns back to you, walks to where the finished plough blade is cooling on the workbench. He picks it up. Heavy, solid. He examines the weld runs, his thumb along it, checking for gaps, for weakness, for any sign that it's going to fail the first time someone puts pressure on it. He's looking for reasons to dock your pay, looking for flaws, looking for evidence that you rushed it, that you cut corners, that you're as incompetent as the apprentice. He finds nothing. The weld is solid. The blade is straight. The work is acceptable. He sets it down. Not gently, not roughly, just sets it down. That's your praise. That's your acknowledgement. The absence of criticism. You clear your throat. His eyes flick to you. You gesture at the second plough blade, the one the farmer brought in, the broken one that needs to be ready by tomorrow evening. You hold up 3 fingers. Then make a small gesture, like splitting something in half. 3.5 pennies. That's what you quoted. The master's face does something, a small tightening around his eyes. He's calculating. 3.5 pennies for a weld repair. Should be 4. You negotiated without authorization. You made a decision that affects his profit margin. But he doesn't argue, doesn't correct you, just gives a single, curt nod. 3.5 is acceptable. Get it done by tomorrow evening. Then he points at the short hinge. Then at you. His meaning is clear. You're going to make a new one. A seventh hinge. A proper one. Because he's not delivering mismatched hinges to a church. Which means the short hinge, the one you spent an hour on, the one that used materials and fuel and time, is waste. Complete waste. You'll have to start over. The master leaves. The door closes behind him. The apprentice exhales like he's been holding his breath. You return to the forge. The fire is still burning. It's always burning. You feed it more charcoal. The charcoal pile is getting low. You'll need to mention that to the master, who will complain about the cost, who will blame you for using too much, who will eventually order more because the forge can't run without fuel. You're behind schedule. You're always behind schedule. There's always more work than time. That's the nature of this trade. That's the nature of every trade probably. But you only know this one. The apprentice approaches. Not directly. He circles around to your side of the forge, pretending to check something on the workbench. His movements are too deliberate, too casual. He's working up to something. He stops near you, doesn't look at you, just stands there, watching you work. His hands are fidgeting, picking up a hammer, setting it down, adjusting his apron. The body language of someone who wants to ask a question, but isn't sure they're allowed. You don't acknowledge him. You're heating the hinge stock, watching the color change, orange to yellow, almost ready. He shifts his weight, glances at you, glances away. He's doing that thing young people do when they're trying to figure out if their suffering is normal or if they're uniquely incompetent. You know what he wants to know. They all want to know the same thing eventually. How long until I'm good at this? How long until it stops being impossible? How long until my body stops screaming and my hands stop shaking and the metal starts cooperating? You pull the hinge stock from the forge, set it on the anvil, strike it once. The metal shapes properly. You've been doing this for 15 years, maybe 16. You started younger than he is now. You still make mistakes every day. He saw the short hinge. He saw you waste an hour and materials and the master's patience. 15 years of experience and you're still producing waste. The apprentice is still standing there, still waiting for something. Reassurance, maybe. Some indication that this gets easier. That the constant failure and pain and exhaustion eventually transform into competence and confidence. You strike the hinge again. The metal bends exactly where you want it to bend. It doesn't get easier. That's the truth he's looking for. It doesn't get easier. You just get used to it. You get used to the pain. You get used to the mistakes. You get used to being behind schedule and disappointing customers and wasting materials. You get numb to it. That's not the same thing as it getting easier. The apprentice's face does something. That small collapse of hope. He was expecting a different answer. They always expect a different answer. You don't look at him. You focus on the hinge. Strike it again. The curve is forming properly now. He stands there for another moment. Then he turns and walks back to his anvil. His shoulders are lower than they were. His movements are heavier. He's just learned something important and terrible. This is what the work is. This is what it will always be. There's no transformation coming. No moment where it suddenly makes sense. Just this. Every day. Until your body quits or you die. He picks up his hammer, returns to his nails. You return to your hinge. The second plough blade is waiting. Let's talk about what blacksmiths actually make. Not in stories. not in legends, not in the collective imagination of people who've never been within 10 feet of a forge. In reality, you don't make swords. You've never made a sword. You'll probably never make a sword. Swords are specialized work. Swords require high-quality steel, which is expensive and difficult to work with. Swords require precision and artistry and time. Swords are made by master craftsmen in large towns or cities, people who've spent decades perfecting the specific techniques of blade making. You make nails. Thousands and thousands of nails. Nails are the foundation of medieval construction. Every building, every door, every piece of furniture, it's all held together with nails. And nails are consumable. They bend, they rust, they break, they get lost. There's an endless demand for nails. A nail is simple. It's a shaft of iron with a point on one end and a flat head on the other. You make them by taking a piece of iron rod, heating it, hammering one end into a point, cutting it to length, heating the other end, and flattening it into a head. Simple, repetitive, mind-numbing. You can make 12 nails in an hour if you're efficient. 12 nails. That's one nail every 5 minutes. Heat, strike, point, cut, heat, strike, flatten. Over and over. Your arm moving in the same motions. Your brain shutting off because thinking makes it worse. The apprentice is learning this now. He's learning that blacksmithing is not romantic. It's not creative. It's production work. You're a machine made of meat, and your job is to turn iron rods into nails as quickly as possible without making mistakes. You also make hinges. You've made hundreds of hinges. Thousands probably. Door hinges, gate hinges, chest hinges, shutter hinges. Every hinge is basically the same. A strap of iron with a loop or a pin. The details vary, but the principle doesn't. Hinges are slightly more interesting than nails, because they require some problem solving. You need to figure out the size, the weight, the stress points. A door hinge needs to support the weight of the door while allowing it to swing smoothly. If you make it too weak, it'll bend. Too heavy, and it's a waste of material. But interesting is relative. After you've made your 100th hinge, they all blur together. You make tools, lots of tools. Axes, hammers, chisels, wedges, hoes, rakes, sickles, scythes, knives. Every farmer, every carpenter, every mason needs tools, and tools wear out. The edge of an axe dulls. The handle of a hammer breaks. A chisel cracks. They bring them to you, and you fix them, or make new ones. Tool making is skilled work. A good axe requires the right balance, the right edge geometry, the right temper. If the steel is too hard, it'll chip. Too soft, and it won't hold an edge. You're constantly making judgments about heat and hardness and how the tool will be used. But it's still repetitive. It's still production work. You're not crafting masterpieces. You're making functional objects that will be used until they break and then replaced. You make horseshoes. Lots of horseshoes. Horses are everywhere in medieval society. They pull ploughs. They pull carts. They carry riders. And horses need shoes because their hooves weigh down on hard surfaces. A horseshoe is a curved piece of iron with holes for nails. You make them in standard sizes, and then you fit them to individual horses. Fitting a horseshoe is its own skill. You have to trim the hoof, shake the shoe to match, heat it, nail it on without hitting the sensitive part of the hoof. It's delicate work. It's also dangerous because horses are large and stupid. and sometimes they kick you. You've been kicked twice. Once in the ribs, once in the thigh. Both times you kept working because stopping meant losing money. You make structural iron, brackets, braces, supports, anything that needs to hold weight or reinforce a structure. This is heavy work. The pieces are large. The metal is thick. You're not doing delicate shaping. You're bending and welding and making sure things don't fall apart. You make household items, pots, pans, trivets, hooks, chains, locks, keys. The everyday objects that people need to cook and store things and secure their belongings. Locks are interesting. A lock is a puzzle made of metal. You have to create a mechanism that can be opened with a specific key and no other key. It requires precision. It requires thinking. You like making locks because they're one of the few things you make that require actual problem solving. But you don't make many locks. Locks are expensive. Most people don't have anything worth locking up. You make agricultural equipment. Plough blades, harrow teeth, sickle blades, scythe blades. This is essential work. Agriculture is the foundation of society. If farmers can't farm, everyone starves. And farming requires metal tools. Plough blades are particularly important. A plough blade cuts through soil. It needs to be sharp enough to cut, but strong enough not to break when it hits a rock. It needs to be shaped correctly to turn the soil. It's a balance of edge geometry and structural integrity. You've made hundreds of plough blades. You'll make hundreds more. You make weapons, but not the weapons you think. You don't make swords. You make spearheads, arrowheads, knife blades. Occasionally an axe head that might be used as a weapon. These are simpler than swords, cheaper, more common. A spearhead is a pointed blade on a socket that fits over a wooden shaft. It's an effective weapon. It's also easy to make. Heat the metal, flatten it into a blade shape, form the socket, sharpen the edges. Done. Arrowheads are even simpler. Small triangular blades with a tang that fits into the arrow shaft. You can make dozens in a day. These weapons are for common soldiers, peasant levies, town guards, people who can't afford a sword and wouldn't know how to use one anyway. You make repairs, endless repairs. People bring you broken things, cracked pots, bent tools, snapped chains, broken locks. Your job is to fix them. Sometimes this is simple. Reheat the metal, reshape it, done. Sometimes it's complex. You need to weld pieces together, replace sections, essentially rebuild the object. Repairs are frustrating because you're working with damaged metal. Metal that's been stressed. Metal that has weak points. You're trying to restore something to functionality, but you're working with compromised materials. And people always want repairs done cheaply. They don't want to pay for a new tool. They want you to fix the old one for half the price. Never mind that fixing it takes almost as much time as making a new one. You make things you can't talk about. Sometimes a customer comes in with a special request. They want something specific, something unusual, something that maybe isn't entirely legal. A knife with a hidden blade, a lock that can be picked with a specific tool, a chain with a weak link that looks strong. You don't ask questions. You make the thing. You take the money. You forget about it. This is part of the job. Blacksmiths have access to skills and materials that other people don't. Sometimes those skills are used for purposes you'd rather not think about. You make everything except the things people imagine you make. No swords. No armor. No legendary weapons. No magical artifacts. Just nails. And hinges. And horseshoes. And plough blades. And all the other mundane, essential, invisible things that hold society together. And here's the thing. This work is essential. Genuinely essential. Without blacksmiths, buildings collapse. Farming stops. Transportation fails. Society grinds to a halt. You are absolutely necessary. And you're also completely disposable. Because there are other blacksmiths. There are always other blacksmiths. If you die tomorrow, someone else will take your place at the forge. The work will continue. The nails will still be made. You're essential and replaceable at the same time. That's the paradox. That's the trap. The Guild makes sure you understand this. The Guild. The organization of blacksmiths that controls who can work, where they can work, what they can make, and how much they can charge, is always watching. You're not a member of the Guild. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Guild membership requires money. It requires sponsorship. It requires years of proven work and connections and luck. The Master is a Guild member. You're just someone who works for him. But the Guild still controls your life. There are regulations. So many regulations. You can't make certain items unless you're a master craftsman. You can't charge more than the Guild-approved prices. You can't work outside the designated areas. You can't take on certain types of commissions. You can't train apprentices without permission. You can't open your own forge without approval. The regulations exist, theoretically, to maintain quality, to prevent fraud, to protect customers from shoddy work. In practice, the regulations exist to protect established blacksmiths from competition. If you're a Guild member, the regulations protect you. They prevent new blacksmiths from undercutting your prices. They prevent unqualified people from claiming to be blacksmiths. They give you a monopoly on certain types of work. If you're not a Guild member, the regulations trap you. You can't advance. You can't compete. You can't leave. The Guild sends inspectors, regularly, unannounced. An inspector will walk into the workshop and examine everything. The quality of your work, the materials you're using, the prices you're charging, the tools you're using, whether you're following the regulations. If they find a violation, there's a fine. Always a fine. The fine comes out of the master's pocket, which means it comes out of your pocket, which means you work extra hours for free to make up for it. The violations are often arbitrary. The inspector decides that a hinge isn't up to standard, that a nail is slightly too short, that you used the wrong type of iron for a particular job. There's no appeal, no argument. The inspector's word is final. This is control. This is how the Guild maintains power, by making sure that everyone who works metal is constantly afraid of violating some rule they didn't know existed. You learn to be careful. You learn to follow the regulations exactly. You learn to smile at the inspector and show them your work and hope they don't find something wrong. But they always find something wrong. That's their job. The master hates the Guild. He complains about it constantly. The fees, the regulations, the inspections, the way they control prices and prevent him from charging what he thinks his work is worth. But he's also a Guild member. He benefits from the system. The Guild protects him from competition. It ensures that customers come to him instead of to some unlicensed blacksmith working out of a shed. He hates the Guild and needs the Guild at the same time. That's the relationship everyone has with the guild. You dream of becoming a guild member, of opening your own forge, of being the master instead of the worker. It's a stupid dream. You know it's a stupid dream, but you dream it anyway. To become a guild member, you need to complete your apprenticeship. Then you need to work as a journeyman for several years. Then you need to create a masterpiece, a demonstration piece that proves your skill. Then you need to pay the membership fee. Then you need to be approved by the existing guild members. Each step is a barrier. Each step is designed to prevent most people from advancing. The apprenticeship takes 7 years, minimum. Sometimes longer if the master decides you're not ready. You're currently in year 15 of working as a blacksmith, and you're still not a master. You're still working for someone else. The journeyman period is supposed to be when you travel and learn from different masters. In practice, it's when you work for low wages in different workshops, gaining experience that may or may not be recognized when you finally try to join the guild. The masterpiece is the real barrier. You need to create something that demonstrates exceptional skill, something that proves you're worthy of being called a master craftsman. And you need to do this while working full-time, because you still need to eat. What would your masterpiece be? A perfect lock? An ornate hinge? A tool with exceptional balance and edge retention? You don't know. You haven't had time to think about it. You're too busy making nails. The membership fee is substantial. More money than you've ever had at one time. More money than you're likely to accumulate while working for the master. Because the master pays you just enough to survive and not enough to save. And even if you complete all these steps, the guild can still reject you. They can decide you're not a good fit, that there are already enough blacksmiths in the area, that your masterpiece isn't good enough, that they don't like you. There's no appeal, no recourse. You either get in or you don't. Most people don't. Most people work their entire lives as journeymen or assistants. They never own their own forge. They never become masters. They work for someone else until their bodies give out, and then they're replaced. You're probably going to be one of those people. The guild ensures it. An inspector arrives while you're working on the second plough blade. You don't hear him come in. The forge is loud. The bellows, the hammer, the hiss of quenching. You're focused on the metal. You're in the middle of a delicate weld. Inspection, a voice says behind you. You nearly drop the plough blade. You set it down carefully, turn around. The inspector is standing in the doorway, a thin man with a ledger and an expression that suggests he's already found something wrong. Master's not here, you say. I'm not here for the master. I'm here to inspect the work. He walks to the workbench, picks up one of the hinges, examines it, sets it down, picks up another. He's looking for flaws. He's looking for reasons to issue a fine. These are for the church, he asks. Yes. They're mismatched. One was damaged. I'm making a replacement. So you're delivering mismatched hinges to a church? No. I'm making a replacement. The church will receive 6 matching hinges. He makes a note in his ledger. You can't see what he's writing. It's probably not good. He moves to the pile of nails the apprentice has made. Picks one up. It's bent. He holds it up. This is substandard work. The apprentice is learning. The guild has standards for apprentice work. This doesn't meet them. Another note in the ledger. He walks around the workshop, examines the forge, the tools, the materials. He's looking for violations. He's looking for anything that deviates from the regulations. He picks up a piece of iron stock. Where did this come from? The master bought it from a supplier. Which supplier? You don't know. You're not involved in purchasing. That's the master's job. But saying, I don't know, to an inspector is dangerous. I'd have to check with the master, you say. The guild requires documentation of all material sources to prevent the use of substandard iron. The master keeps the records. Another note. The inspector is building a case. He's collecting violations. Each violation is a fine. Each fine is money out of your pocket. He turns to you. How long have you been working as a blacksmith? 15 years. And you're not a guild member? Not yet. Why not? Because I can't afford the fees. Because I haven't had time to create a masterpiece. Because the system is designed to prevent people like me from advancing. I'm working toward it, you say. He makes another note. The guild encourages timely advancement. Prolonged journeyman status suggests a lack of skill or ambition. You don't respond. There's nothing to say that won't make this worse. He closes his ledger. I'll be filing a report. The master will receive notification of the fines. How much? That will be determined by the guild council. Expect notification within a week. He leaves. You stand there, holding a half-finished plough blade, knowing that you've just cost the master money. Knowing that the master will blame you. Knowing that you'll work extra hours to make up for it. The apprentice is staring at you. What just happened? The guild happened, you say. Are we in trouble? We're always in trouble. That's how the system works. You return to the plough blade. The metal is cold now. You'll have to reheat it. Start over. The weld you were working on is ruined. You push the blade back into the forge. The fire consumes it. You pump the bellows. Your arm hurts. Your shoulder hurts. Your back hurts. Everything hurts. Let's talk about what this work does to your body. Not metaphorically. Not poetically. Literally. Physically. What happens to a human body that spends 12 hours a day, every day, for years, standing in front of a forge and swinging a hammer? Your hands are destroyed. The calluses we talked about earlier, they're not just thick skin. They're layers of dead tissue that your body has built up as armor. The calluses crack. They bleed. They develop fissures that go deep into the flesh. You can stick a needle into some parts of your palm and not feel it because the nerve endings are dead. Your fingers don't straighten completely anymore. They're permanently curved from gripping the hammer. When you try to extend them fully, there's pain. Sharp pain in the joints. Your hands are becoming claws. You have trigger finger in your right hand. That's when a tendon gets stuck and your finger locks in a bent position. You have to manually straighten it with your other hand. It clicks when it releases. It hurts every time. Your grip strength is immense. You can crush things without meaning to. But your fine motor control is gone. You can't do delicate work anymore. You can't write clearly. You can't manipulate small objects. Your hands are tools now, not hands. The burns on your hands and arms. We talked about those too. But let's talk about what happens to burns that don't heal properly. Some of them get infected. The infection spreads under the skin. Your arm swells. It turns red. It's hot to the touch. You develop a fever. You keep working because stopping means losing money. And the infection either kills you or it doesn't. Most of the time, it doesn't. Most of the time, your body fights it off. But the scar tissue that forms is thick and inflexible. It restricts movement. Your arm doesn't bend the way it used to. Sunburns damage the nerves. You have patches of skin on your forearms that are completely numb. You can't feel temperature. You can't feel pain. This seems like an advantage until you realize that pain is how your body tells you you're being damaged. Without pain, you burn yourself worse because you don't notice. Your arms are strong. Incredibly strong. Your right arm, your hammer arm, is noticeably larger than your left. The muscles are overdeveloped from years of repetitive motion. You look lopsided, asymmetrical. But strong doesn't mean healthy. Your shoulder is damaged. There's a grinding sensation when you move it, bone on bone. The cartilage is worn away from years of impact. Every hammer strike sends a shock through your shoulder joint. The shock accumulates. The damage accumulates. You have pain that never stops. A deep, aching pain in your shoulder that radiates down your arm and up into your neck. It's worse in the morning. It's worse in the evening. It's always there. Your back is bent. Not metaphorically. Literally bent. You spend 12 hours a day leaning over an anvil. Your spine has curved to accommodate this position. When you stand up straight, when you try to stand up straight, there's pain. Your back doesn't want to be straight anymore. You have a hump forming between your shoulder blades. It's small now. In 10 years, it'll be pronounced. In 20 years, you'll be visibly deformed. Your lower back is a disaster. The muscles are constantly tight, constantly spasming. You have pain that shoots down your legs. Sometimes your leg goes numb. Sometimes it gives out and you nearly fall. There's no treatment for this. No cure. You work through it. Everyone works through it. Back pain is part of being a blacksmith. Your lungs are compromised. You've been breathing smoke and metal particles for 15 years. Your lungs are coated with deposits. You can feel it when you breathe deeply. A tightness, a restriction. You can't take a full breath anymore. You cough constantly. A dry, hacking cough that brings up black phlegm. The phlegm is your lungs trying to expel the particles. It's not working. The particles are embedded in the tissue. You're developing what will eventually be called pneumoconiosis. Blacksmith's lung. It's a progressive disease. Your lungs will continue to deteriorate. Your breathing will get worse. Eventually, you'll struggle to breathe even at rest. There's no treatment. You'll die from this, probably. Not soon. But eventually. Your hearing is going. The constant hammering metal on metal, thousands of strikes per day, has damaged your ears. You have tinnitus. A constant ringing that never stops. It's loudest at night when everything else is quiet. You can't hear high-pitched sounds anymore. Voices sound muffled. People have to repeat themselves. You're going deaf, slowly, and there's nothing you can do about it. Your eyes are damaged. The constant exposure to bright light from the forge has affected your vision. You have trouble seeing in dim light. Your eyes are always dry, always irritated. You blink constantly. You're developing cataracts. You're too young for cataracts, but the heat and the light have accelerated the process. Your vision is getting cloudy. In a few years, you won't be able to see clearly enough to do precision work. Your teeth are loose. You don't know why. Maybe it's the poor diet. Maybe it's the constant exposure to heat affecting your gums. Maybe it's just bad luck. But your teeth are loose in their sockets. You can wiggle them with your tongue. You've lost 2 teeth already. They just fell out one day. No pain, no warning. Just gone. You'll lose more. Everyone loses teeth. By the time you're 50, if you make it to 50, you'll have maybe half your teeth left. Your skin is wrong. The constant heat has changed your skin. It's thick and leathery on your face and arms. It's dry. It cracks easily. You look older than you are. You have age spots. Dark patches on your hands and face from sun damage and heat damage. You're 35, but you look 50. Your hair is thin, brittle, singed at the edges. You're going bald prematurely. The heat has damaged your hair follicles. You're exhausted, constantly exhausted. Not just tired, exhausted. Bone-deep, soul-deep exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. You wake up tired. You go to bed tired. You're tired while you're working. Your body is being consumed. Slowly, methodically. The forge is eating you. And here's the thing. This is normal. This is what happens to blacksmiths. Everyone who works this trade ends up like this. Bent, scarred, damaged, deaf, blind, exhausted. This is the cost of making nails. The master knows this. He sees it happening to you. He saw it happen to the blacksmith who worked here before you. He'll see it happen to whoever works here after you. He doesn't care. Not because he's cruel. Because caring doesn't change anything. The work needs to be done. Bodies are the cost of doing the work. You're a tool. Tools wear out. When you wear out completely, you'll be replaced. That's the economics of it. Let's talk about the economics. The master runs a business. The business needs to be profitable. Profit is revenue minus costs. You are a cost. The master pays you a wage. It's not much. It's enough to rent a small room, buy food, maybe have a little left over for clothes or repairs or emergencies. It's not enough to save. It's not enough to advance. It's exactly enough to keep you alive and working. This is intentional. If he paid you more, you might save enough to leave. To open your own forge. To become competition. He can't have that. If he paid you less, you'd starve or leave anyway. He can't have that either. So he pays you exactly the amount that keeps you trapped. You produce value. Every nail you make, every hinge, every tool. These things are sold. The master charges customers. The customers pay. That money is revenue. How much of that revenue comes to you? A fraction. A small fraction. Let's do the math. You make 12 nails per hour. You work 12 hours per day. That's 144 nails per day. The master sells nails for a penny per dozen. That's 12 pennies per day in revenue from just your nail production. He pays you 3 pennies per day. Where does the other 9 pennies go? Materials. Charcoal. Tools. Workshop maintenance. The master's own living expenses. Profit. Mostly profit. The master is getting rich off your labor. Not quickly. Not dramatically. But steadily. Every day you work, he accumulates a little more wealth. Every day you work, you stay exactly where you are. This is how the system works. This is how it's designed to work. The apprentice is even worse off. The apprentice doesn't get paid at all. The apprentice pays the master for the privilege of learning. Room and board, supposedly, but mostly the apprentice is free labor. The apprentice will work for 7 years without wages. 7 years of making nails and hinges and learning the trade. And at the end of those 7 years, the apprentice will become a journeyman and start earning a wage that's barely enough to survive. And the apprentice thinks this is normal. This is opportunity. This is advancement. The master thinks about these things constantly. You can see it in the way he watches you work. He's calculating. How many nails can you make before you're too damaged to work efficiently? How much can he extract from you before you need to be replaced? He's not cruel. He's practical. This is business. When you make a mistake, like the short hinge, he calculates the cost, the wasted materials, the wasted time, the reduced price he'll get from the customer. He subtracts this from your value. When you work extra hours to fix the mistake, he doesn't pay you extra. You're just restoring your value to baseline. You're just making up for the loss you caused. This is how he thinks. This is how all masters think. You understand this. You've always understood this. But understanding doesn't change anything. You need this job. You need the wage. You need the workshop. Without the master, you have nothing. You're just a person with skills and no way to use them. So you accept the arrangement. You accept the low wages. You accept the long hours. You accept the damage to your body. You accept that you're being exploited because the alternative is starvation. This is the trap. This is the system. This is medieval economics. The master isn't the villain. He's just a person operating within a system that benefits him. He didn't create the system. He's just using it. You're not the victim. You're just a person operating within a system that exploits you. You didn't create the system either. You're just trapped in it. The system is the villain. The system is always the villain. But you can't fight a system. You can only survive it. The day ends. Not because the work is done. The work is never done. The day ends because the light is failing and you can't see well enough to work safely anymore. The sun is setting. The workshop is dim. The forge is still glowing. It'll glow for hours, slowly cooling, never quite going cold. You set down your hammer. Your arm is shaking. Your shoulder is screaming. Your back is locked in a bent position, and straightening it is going to hurt. You straighten it. It hurts. The apprentice has already left. He finished his nails, 20 of them, most bent or malformed, but 20, and the master dismissed him. He's young enough that his body recovers overnight. He'll be fine tomorrow. You won't be fine tomorrow. You're never fine. You bank the forge. This is important. If you do it wrong, the fire goes out completely, and you'll have to start from scratch in the morning. If you do it right, the embers will stay alive overnight, buried under ash, waiting to be coaxed back to life. You rake the coals into a pile in the center of the forge. You cover them with a thick layer of ash. The ash insulates them, keeps them hot, lets them burn slowly without oxygen. By morning they'll be weak but alive. You check the workshop. Tools put away. Metal stock organized. The floor is covered in metal shavings and ash and debris. You should sweep. You're too tired to sweep. You'll sweep tomorrow. Probably. You walk to the door. Your legs are stiff. Your knees hurt. Every step is an effort. Outside, the air is cool. Clean. After 12 hours of smoke and heat, the evening air feels like a gift. You breathe deeply. Your lungs protest. You cough. Black phlegm. You walk home. Home is attached to the workshop, but you still think of it as walking home. It's a psychological separation. Work is there. Home is here. Even though they're the same building. Your spouse is cooking something. You can smell it. Some kind of pottage, vegetables and grain boiled together. It's the same thing you eat most nights. It's cheap. It's filling. It's not good. You sit down. Your body is vibrating. That's the thing about hammering metal all day. Your muscles don't stop. Even when you're sitting still, your arm is twitching. Your hand is clenching and unclenching. Your body thinks it's still working. Your spouse brings you food. You eat. You don't taste it. You're too tired to taste it. How was your day? The same, you say. And it was. The same as yesterday. The same as tomorrow will be. The same as every day for the past 15 years. You could describe it in detail. The plough blade, the hinges, the apprentice's mistakes, the customer who wanted something impossible. But what's the point? Your spouse has heard it before. You've said it before. The words don't change anything. You look tired. You are tired. You're always tired. There's a kind of tiredness that sleep doesn't fix. A tiredness that accumulates in your bones, in your joints, in the spaces between your thoughts. You've been tired since you were 25. You'll be tired until you die. You finish eating. The bowl is empty. You don't remember eating. Your body did it automatically while your mind was somewhere else. Probably back at the forge. Probably thinking about the plough blade that needs to be finished by tomorrow evening. Probably calculating whether you have enough charcoal or whether you'll need to send the apprentice to buy more, which means spending money the master will notice. You should go to bed. It's not late. The sun has only just set. But you need to be up before dawn. The fire needs to be started. The work needs to begin. Sleep is the only thing between you and tomorrow is going to be exactly like today. You lie down. Your body is still vibrating. This is the part no one tells you about. The part where your muscles won't stop moving. Your right arm, the hammer arm, is twitching. Small spasms. Your hand opens and closes. Your shoulder aches with a deep, grinding pain that radiates down to your elbow. You've been hammering metal for 12 hours. Your body doesn't understand that you've stopped. You close your eyes. You try to relax. You can't relax. Your mind is racing, not with thoughts exactly, more like echoes. The sound of the hammer on the anvil, the hiss of hot metal in water, the master's voice saying the plough blade should have been ready an hour ago, the customer's face when you told him tomorrow evening instead of tomorrow morning, the apprentice's ruined hinge sitting on the workbench, a waste of materials, a waste of time. You try to breathe slowly. Deep breaths. In and out. It doesn't help. Your back hurts. The bed is thin. A straw mattress that's compressed into something barely thicker than the floor. You shift position. Your hip protests. You shift again. Your shoulder screams. There's no comfortable position. Your body is shaped wrong. Years of standing at the anvil. Years of bending over the forge. Years of twisting to reach tools. It's changed you. Your spine curves in ways it shouldn't. Your right shoulder sits higher than your left. Your neck doesn't turn all the way to the right anymore. You hear sounds from the workshop. Not loud sounds. Just the settling sounds of a building cooling down. The forge contracting as it loses heat. Metal pinging softly. The creak of wood. You know these sounds intimately. You've heard them every night for 15 years. You should be asleep. You need to be asleep. Tomorrow starts in 6 hours. Maybe 7 if you're lucky. That's not enough sleep. It's never enough sleep. But you can't sleep because your body won't stop, and your mind won't stop, and the workshop is right there, just on the other side of the wall, waiting for you. Your spouse is asleep next to you. You can hear their breathing, slow and steady. easy. They're tired too. Everyone is tired. This is the medieval period. Exhaustion is the default state of existence. But their tiredness is different. They can sleep. Their body lets them sleep. Yours doesn't. You lie there in the dark. Your arm twitches. Your hand clenches. Your mind replays the day. The plough blade, the hinges, the nails, the horseshoe that cracked, the customer who wanted a sword, the master's calculations about whether you're producing enough to justify your wages. You think about tomorrow. It will be the same. The fire will be cold. You'll coax it back to life. The apprentice will make mistakes. Customers will arrive with impossible demands. The master will watch you work and calculate your value. You'll hammer metal until your arm goes numb. You'll breathe smoke until your lungs burn. You'll stand in front of the forge until the heat makes you dizzy. And then you'll come home. And you'll eat. And you'll lie down. And you won't sleep. This is your life. Not the dramatic parts. Not the moments when you create something beautiful, or solve a difficult problem, or feel the satisfaction of work well done. Those moments exist, sure. Sometimes, rarely. But they're not your life. Your life is this: lying in the dark, body vibrating, mind racing, knowing that tomorrow will be the same, and the day after that will be the same, and nothing will ever change. You are 30 years old. In blacksmith years, that's approximately 70. You have maybe 20 more years of work in you, maybe less. Your body is already failing. Your shoulder, your back, your hands, your eyes, your lungs. Every part of you is damaged in small ways that accumulate into large ways. And when your body finally quits, when you can't lift the hammer anymore, or can't see the metal clearly enough to work it, or can't stand at the forge for 12 hours without collapsing, then what? There's no pension, no retirement, no guild fund that takes care of broken blacksmiths. You work until you can't work, and then you stop existing in any meaningful economic sense. Maybe your spouse can support you. Maybe you have children who'll take care of you. Maybe you'll end up begging. Probably you'll just die, quietly, unremarkably. Another blacksmith who worked until his body gave out. You finally fall asleep sometime after midnight. It's not real sleep. It's more like your consciousness gives up and shuts down for a few hours. Your body keeps twitching. Your dreams are about the forge, about metal that won't heat properly, about customers who are angry, about the master's face when he discovers you've wasted materials. You wake up before dawn. Your arm still hurts. Your back still hurts. Everything still hurts. Time to start the fire. The thing about being a blacksmith, the thing that no one tells you when you're young and stupid and thinking about learning a trade, is that you are essential and you are nothing. Society needs blacksmiths. Desperately. Constantly. Without blacksmiths, everything stops. Farming stops because there are no plough blades, no hoes, no sickles. Construction stops because there are no nails, no hinges, no brackets. Transportation stops because there are no horseshoes, no wheel rims, no cart fittings. Warfare stops because there are no swords, no armor, no arrowheads. Blacksmiths make civilization possible. You make civilization possible. And you are completely, utterly replaceable. That's the paradox. That's the trap. You are essential to the system and worthless to the system at the same time. Think about it. The lord in his castle needs blacksmiths. He needs weapons. He needs tools. He needs all the metal things that make his life possible. But does he need you specifically? Does he know your name? Does he care whether you live or die? No. He cares that someone is making the things he needs. If you die tomorrow, another blacksmith will take your place. If that blacksmith dies, another will take his place. You are interchangeable. You are a function, not a person. The master needs blacksmiths. His entire business depends on having skilled workers who can turn raw metal into valuable objects. But does he need you specifically? He pays you exactly enough to keep you alive and working. Not enough to save money. Not enough to leave. Not enough to have any kind of security. Just enough to survive and show up tomorrow. If you died, he'd be inconvenienced. He'd have to train someone new. But he'd survive. His business would survive. You are necessary and disposable. The guild needs blacksmiths. The entire structure of the guild system depends on having a steady supply of craftsmen producing goods. But the guild also needs to control those craftsmen, to keep them in their place, to prevent them from becoming competition, to extract fees and fines and dues. You are valuable to the guild as a source of revenue and as a worker who maintains the system. You are not valuable as an individual with needs or ambitions or a desire for something better. And here's the worst part, you can't leave. You've spent 15 years learning this trade. 15 years developing skills that are completely useless anywhere else. You know how to heat metal to the right temperature. You know how to hammer it into shape. You know how to quench it and temper it and sharpen it. These are valuable skills, essential skills. They are also incredibly specific skills. What else can you do? Farm. You don't know how. You've been standing at a forge since you were 15. You don't know about crop rotation or soil quality or when to plant what. Become a merchant? With what money? You have no capital, no connections, no experience in trade. Join the church? They don't want 30-year-old blacksmiths with ruined bodies and no education. You are trapped by your own expertise. The skills that make you valuable are the same skills that make you unable to do anything else. You are a blacksmith. That's all you are. That's all you can be. The work has shaped you, literally shaped your body, shaped your mind, shaped your entire existence into something that can only function in one very specific context. And that context is controlled by people who don't care about you. You can't advance. The guild system prevents it. To become a master craftsman, you need to complete a masterpiece. A demonstration of your skills that proves you're worthy of guild membership. But you also need money. Money for materials. Money for the time it takes to create the masterpiece instead of doing paid work. Money for the guild fees. Money for the bribes and the connections and the political maneuvering that actually determines who gets accepted. You don't have money. You'll never have money. The system is designed to keep you exactly where you are. You can't make more money. Prices are controlled by the guild. You can't charge more than the established rate. You can't undercut other blacksmiths to get more customers. You can't innovate or specialize or find a niche. The guild decides what you can make, how you can make it, and what you can charge. Any deviation results in fines. Repeated deviations result in expulsion from the trade. And if you're expelled from the trade, what then? You're a blacksmith who can't work as a blacksmith. You have no other skills, no other options. You starve. So you stay. You work. You hammer metal 12 hours a day. You breathe smoke. You burn your hands. You destroy your body piece by piece. You earn exactly enough to survive, and not enough to escape. This is your life. This is forever. You think about the other blacksmiths you know, the ones who've been doing this for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. Their bodies are ruins. Bent spines, twisted hands, blind in one eye or both eyes, deaf from the constant hammering, lungs that wheeze and rattle. They shuffle when they walk. They can barely lift the hammer anymore, but they're still working. Because what else can they do? You think about the blacksmiths who died, not dramatically, not in forge accidents or from infected burns, just died. Worked until their bodies gave out, collapsed at the anvil, went to sleep one night and didn't wake up. Their hearts stopped, or their lungs filled with fluid, or something inside them just quit. The master found replacements within a week. You are essential. You are nothing. You are trapped. You are free to work until you die. That's the deal. That's the system. That's medieval economics applied to human bodies. And the worst part, the part that keeps you awake at night, the part that makes your arm twitch and your mind race, is that you knew this. Not consciously, maybe. Not when you were 15 and starting your apprenticeship. But somewhere deep down, you knew. You saw the older blacksmiths. You saw what the work did to them. You saw the trap. And you walked into it anyway. Because what choice did you have? You were 15. You needed a trade. Blacksmithing was available. So you became a blacksmith. And now, you'll be a blacksmith until you die. The decision you made at 15, the decision that was barely a decision, more like the only option that presented itself, has determined the entire trajectory of your life. You will never be rich. You will never be comfortable. You will never have security or status or the respect of anyone who matters. You will work and hurt and age and die, and the world will continue exactly as it was before you existed. You are a blacksmith. That's your identity, your purpose, your prison. The fire is always dying. The work is never done. The body is always failing. This is the life you're living. This is the life you'll keep living. There's no escape, no retirement, no happy ending where your skills are finally recognized and rewarded. Just the forge, the hammer, the heat, the smoke, the pain, every day, until you can't do it anymore. And then nothing. But let's talk about success. Let's talk about what happens when you make it. When you become a master craftsman. When you own your own forge and have your own apprentices, and your name is known throughout the region. Let's talk about Godric. Godric the Smith. That's what people call him. Not Godric the Blacksmith or Godric who works metal. Just Godric the Smith. The definite article. As if there's only one smith worth mentioning, and he's it. Godric owns his forge. Has owned it for 23 years. He's a guild member. A master craftsman. He has 3 apprentices and 2 journeymen working for him. He makes weapons for the local lord, tools for the merchants, decorative ironwork for the church. He's successful, respected, the kind of blacksmith that young apprentices dream of becoming. Godric is 57 years old. He looks 75. His hands are gnarled. Fingers bent at wrong angles from breaks that healed poorly. Burned scars cover his forearms like a map of every mistake he's ever made. His back is curved. His right shoulder sits noticeably higher than his left. He's deaf in his left ear. partially blind in his right eye. He coughs constantly, a wet, rattling cough that brings up black phlegm. He still works at the forge every day. That's the thing about success. It doesn't mean you stop working. It means you have different problems. Godric started as an apprentice at age 12, worked for a master for 7 years, became a journeyman at 19, worked for wages for another 12 years, saving every coin he could. At 31, he completed his masterpiece, a sword with an intricate guard, a blade that held an edge, a balance that made it sing when you swung it. The guild accepted him. He paid his fees. He became a master. Then he needed a forge. Forges aren't cheap. The building, the equipment, the anvils, the hammers, the tongs, the tools, the bellows, the fuel, the raw materials. He borrowed money, a lot of money, from a merchant who charged interest, high interest. It took him 8 years to pay off that debt. 8 years of working 16-hour days. 8 years of taking every commission, no matter how small or tedious. 8 years of barely surviving while technically being successful. But he paid it off. He owned his forge, free and clear. Then he needed apprentices. You can't run a forge alone. Not if you want to make money. Not if you want to take on the kind of commissions that actually pay well. So he took on apprentices, which meant feeding them, housing them, teaching them, dealing with their mistakes, absorbing the cost of their ruined materials and wasted time. Apprentices are an investment. They cost money for years before they become productive. And just when they become productive, just when they're actually useful, they become journeymen and leave. They go work for someone else. Or they try to become masters themselves. Or they die from plague or accident or infection. Godric has trained 14 apprentices over the past 23 years. 3 of them are still alive. 1 is a master craftsman in another town. 1 is a journeyman working for a competitor. 1 is a farmer because he decided blacksmithing wasn't worth it. The other 11 are dead. Plague, accidents, infections. 1 was kicked by a horse and never woke up. 1 fell into the forge, drunk and burned to death. 1 just stopped showing up one day and was found dead in a ditch a week later. That's the reality of running a forge. You train people. They leave or die. You train more people. The cycle continues. Godric has journeymen now, skilled workers who produce good work. They want wages, fair wages, wages that reflect their skills and experience. Godric pays them. He has to. If he doesn't, they'll leave and work for someone else. But paying them means less profit for him, less money to save, less security. And he needs security. Because he's 57. His body is failing. He can still work. He works every day, still stands at the forge, still hammers metal. But he's slower, weaker. He makes mistakes he wouldn't have made 20 years ago. His hands shake. His eyes can't see the color of hot metal as clearly. He misjudges temperatures, ruins pieces. He can't afford to retire. There's no such thing as retirement. He has some savings, more than most blacksmiths, certainly more than you, but not enough to live on for the rest of his life. He needs to keep working, needs to keep the forge running, needs to keep producing. But here's the problem. He's the master. He's the one whose name is on the forge, whose reputation determines what commissions they get. If he dies, what happens to the forge? His apprentices aren't ready to take over. His journeymen are skilled, but they're not masters. They can't own the forge. Guild rules. Only masters can own forges. If Godric dies, the forge goes too. Who? He has no children. His spouse died 6 years ago from fever. He has a nephew who's a farmer and has no interest in blacksmithing. Probably the forge will be sold, the equipment auctioned off. The apprentices and journeymen will scatter to find work elsewhere. 23 years of building a business, and it will disappear within a month of his death. That's success. That's what you're working toward. The privilege of owning your own prison. The honor of being responsible for other people's livelihoods while your body slowly disintegrates. The status of having your name known while knowing that your name will be forgotten within a generation. Godric makes weapons for the local lord. Swords, daggers, occasionally a piece of armor. This is prestigious work, well-paid work, the kind of work that other blacksmiths envy. It's also political work, dangerous work. The Lord has opinions about how weapons should be made. Specific requirements. He wants blades that look impressive, that have decorative elements, that show his wealth and status. These requirements often conflict with making weapons that actually work well. A decorative guard might look beautiful, but it also might catch on clothing or throw off the balance. An elaborate pommel might be impressive, but it also might be too heavy. Godric has to navigate this, has to make weapons that satisfy the Lord's aesthetic preferences, while also being functional enough that the Lord's soldiers don't die because their swords are poorly balanced. It's a constant negotiation, a constant compromise. And if the Lord is unhappy, if a weapon breaks in battle, or a soldier complains, or the Lord simply decides he doesn't like Godric's work anymore, then Godric loses his most important client, his most prestigious commissions. His reputation suffers. Other nobles hear that the Lord is unhappy with Godric's work. They take their business elsewhere. The forge's income drops. Godric has to lay off journeymen, has to take on smaller commissions, has to compete with younger blacksmiths who charge less. Success is precarious. It's built on reputation, and reputation is built on the opinions of people who have power over you. One bad commission, one unhappy noble, one political shift. That's all it takes. Godric also deals with the guild, more than you do, much more. Because he's a master, he's expected to participate in guild politics, to attend meetings, to vote on regulations, to serve on committees that determine standards and prices, and who gets accepted as a new master. This is time he's not working, time he's not earning money, time he's sitting in a hall listening to other masters argue about whether the price of nails should be adjusted, or whether a particular journeyman's masterpiece is good enough, or whether the guild should petition the Lord for protection from foreign craftsmen. It's boring. It's tedious. It's necessary. Because if he doesn't participate, he loses influence. And if he loses influence, other masters will make decisions that hurt his business. They'll set prices that favor their specialties over his. They'll accept new masters who become his competition. They'll create regulations that make his life harder. So he participates. He plays the game. He makes alliances and enemies. He votes strategically. He protects his interests. This is what success looks like. Not freedom. Not comfort. Just different obligations. Different pressures. Different ways the system controls you. Godric's forge is larger than the one you work in, better equipped. He has 3 anvils, multiple sets of tools, a bellows system that's more efficient, a chimney that actually draws smoke properly, storage for materials, a separate area for finishing work. It's impressive. It's the kind of forge you dream about working in, the kind of setup that would make your job easier, more efficient, more pleasant. Godric is there every day, just like you, standing at the forge, breathing smoke, hammering metal. His body is more damaged than yours. His pain is worse. His limitations are greater. But he can't stop. Because if he stops, everything collapses. The apprentices need supervision. The journeymen need direction. The commissions need to be completed. The guild needs his participation. The business needs his reputation. He is more trapped than you are. Because you only have yourself to worry about. He has employees, obligations, debts, reputation, the weight of success. You asked him once years ago, when you were younger and stupider, whether it was worth it, whether becoming a master was worth the effort and the cost and the years of struggle. He looked at you for a long moment, his damaged eyes, his scarred hands, his bent spine. No, he said. But what else was I going to do? That's the answer. That's always the answer. What else were you going to do? Godric will die at his forge, probably soon. His cough is getting worse. His hands shake more. He's slower, weaker. But he'll keep working until his body gives out completely, until he collapses at the anvil, or coughs up blood, one too many times, or simply doesn't wake up one morning. And then his forge will be sold. His apprentices will scatter. His journeyman will find other work. His name will be remembered for maybe a generation. Oh yes, Godric the smith, he made good weapons, and then forgotten. That's success. That's the best case scenario. That's what you're working toward. The alternative is what you have now. Working for someone else, earning barely enough to survive. No ownership, no status, no security. Both options end the same way. At the forge. In pain. Working until you can't work anymore. The only difference is how many people depend on you when you finally break. There's a story about Godric. Probably not true. Probably exaggerated. But it gets told anyway, the way stories do. 20 years ago, when Godric was younger and stronger, he made a sword for a knight, not the local lord. A visiting knight, someone important, someone with connections to the king. The knight wanted a specific kind of sword, lighter than usual, faster, with a particular kind of edge geometry that would hold sharpness longer. He described what he wanted in detail. He knew about swords, about metallurgy, about what was possible and what wasn't. Godric made the sword. It took him 3 months. He experimented with different steel compositions, different heat treatments, different edge angles. He made 6 blades before he got one that met the knight's specifications. The other 5 were failures, wasted materials, wasted time. But the 6th blade was perfect, light, fast, sharp, balanced. Everything the knight wanted. The knight paid him. Paid him well. More than Godric had ever been paid for a single piece. Enough money to pay off a significant portion of his forge debt. The knight took the sword and left. Godric never saw him again. 3 years later, Godric heard a story. A knight had died in battle. His sword had shattered. The blade had broken in half during a fight. and the knight had been killed. Was it the same knight? Was it the sword Godric made? The story didn't say. Probably not. Swords break. Knights die. It happens constantly. The story probably wasn't even about the same knight. But Godric doesn't know. He'll never know. And that uncertainty, that possibility that his best work, the sword he spent 3 months perfecting, might have failed at the worst possible moment and gotten someone killed, that stays with him. He doesn't talk about it, but other blacksmiths know the story. They tell it to each other, to apprentices, as a lesson about the responsibility of the work, about how the things you make go out into the world and you never know what happens to them. You make a plough blade. It might last 20 years. It might break the first time someone hits a rock. You'll never know. The farmer won't come back to tell you. They'll just get another plough blade from someone else. You make a hinge. It might hold a door for generations. It might fail after 6 months. You'll never know. The door is in someone's house. You'll never see it again. You make a nail. It goes into a wall, or a roof, or a cart. It holds, or it doesn't. You'll never know which. The things you make leave you. They go out into the world. They succeed or fail without you. Your work continues without you. The metal you shaped gets used and worn, and eventually discarded or melted down and made into something else. You are essential to the creation. You are irrelevant to the outcome. That's the work. That's what you do. You make things that leave you. You put your skill and your time and your body into objects that you'll never see again. And you hope they work. You hope they last. You hope they don't fail at a critical moment. But you'll never know. Godric knows this. You know this. Every blacksmith knows this. The work is temporary. The objects are temporary. The only permanent thing is the damage to your body. The forge is cold when you arrive the next morning. Of course it is. The forge is always cold in the morning. That's how mornings work. That's how forges work. Heat doesn't last. Fire dies. Everything returns to cold and ash, and the need to start over. You push aside the top layer of ash. The coals underneath are still warm. Barely. You add kindling. Small pieces of wood that catch easily. You blow on them gently. The embers glow. Smoke rises. A small flame appears. You add more kindling. Larger pieces. The flame grows. You add charcoal. Not too much. Just enough to build the heat gradually. The charcoal catches. The fire spreads. You work the bellows. Air feeds the fire. The fire grows hotter. The charcoal glows red, then orange, then white. The forge comes to life. This is how every day starts. This is how every day has started for 15 years. This is how every day will start for as long as you can do this work. The apprentice arrives. Late. Always late. He looks tired. He's young. He doesn't understand tired yet. Not real tired. Not the kind of tired that lives in your bones. Fire's ready, you say. He nods. He picks up a piece of metal. Probably going to make nails. That's what apprentices do. Make nails. Thousands of nails. Until their hands know the motion without thinking. Until they can make a nail in their sleep. You have your own work. A commission. Something for a customer whose name you've already forgotten. Something that needs to be done by a deadline that's probably impossible. You pick up the metal. You place it in the forge. You wait for it to heat. You watch the color change. black to red to orange to yellow. You pull it out at the right moment. You place it on the anvil. You pick up the hammer. The hammer is heavy. Your arm is weak. Your shoulder hurts. Your back hurts. Everything hurts. You strike the metal. Once, twice, 3 times. The metal changes shape. Slowly, gradually, strike by strike. This is the work. This is what you do. This is what you'll keep doing. The fire, the metal, the hammer, the heat, the smoke, the pain. Every day, until you can't. The metal glows in the forge, orange and yellow and almost white at the center. You've been watching metal glow for 15 years. You'll watch it glow for 15 more if your body lasts that long. If your eyes last. If your hands last. If anything lasts. Probably nothing will last. Probably you'll break before then. Probably something will give out. Your shoulder or your back or your lungs or your heart. And you'll collapse at the anvil, just like the blacksmiths before you. And someone else will take your place. Another blacksmith. Younger, stronger, not yet damaged by the work. They'll stand where you stood. They'll hammer metal where you hammered metal. They'll breathe the same smoke and feel the same heat and develop the same pain. The cycle continues. The work continues. The forge continues. You pull the metal from the fire. You place it on the anvil. You raise the hammer. Your arm shakes slightly. Your shoulder protests. You ignore it. You've been ignoring it for years. You strike. The hammer hits the metal. The sound echoes through the workshop. Sharp and clear and exactly the same as it's always been. The metal changes shape, slowly, gradually, strike by strike. This is your life. This is what you do. This is what you'll keep doing until you can't do it anymore. The fire burns. The metal glows. The hammer falls. The work continues. Always. The listener, you, the person trying to fall asleep while imagining this life. You're drifting now. The rhythm of the hammer, the heat of the forge, the repetition of the work. It's lulling you, pulling you down into sleep. That's good. That's the point. Sleep. Rest. Tomorrow you'll wake up in your own life, your own time, your own body that isn't destroyed by medieval metalwork. But tonight you're here, at the forge, in the smoke, in the heat, in the endless cycle of work that defines this life. The hammer falls, the metal shapes, the fire burns. Again, and again, and again. Sleep now. The work will still be here when you wake. It's always here. It never ends. The forge is always dying. The fire is always cold. The work is always waiting. But for now, sleep. Let the rhythm carry you down. Let the heat fade. Let the smoke clear. Tomorrow the fire will be cold again. Tomorrow you'll start over. Tomorrow the work continues. But tonight, sleep. Rest. Dream of something other than the forge. Or don't. Maybe you'll dream of the hammer, the anvil, the heat. Maybe the work follows you even into sleep. It usually does. The fire burns low. The coals glow softly. The workshop settles into darkness. The sounds fade. The heat dissipates. Everything returns to cold and quiet, and the space between one day and the next. Sleep. The forge will wait. It always waits. It's patient. It knows you'll be back. You always come back. The hammer rests on the workbench. The anvil sits silent. The metal cools. The fire dies down to embers. Tomorrow it starts again. The fire, the metal, the hammer, the work. But tonight, sleep. Let it go. Let the forge fade. Let the medieval world recede into history where it belongs. You're just visiting. Just imagining. Just falling asleep to the rhythm of a life you'll never have to live. The blacksmith's life continues without you. The forge burns. The work continues. The cycle repeats. But you're drifting away now, falling into sleep, into dreams, into the quiet darkness where the hammer doesn't fall and the fire doesn't burn, and the work finally, mercifully, stops. Sleep well. Rest. Tomorrow you'll wake up in your own time, your own life, your own body that isn't broken by the forge. The medieval blacksmith will still be here, still working, still hammering, still trapped in the endless cycle of fire and metal and pain. But that's not you. You're just visiting, just imagining, just falling asleep. The fire dies. The forge goes cold. The work stops. Finally, briefly, until tomorrow. Sleep now. The story is over. The work is done. For tonight, at least. The forge is silent. The workshop is dark. The medieval world fades into history, and you sleep. Finally, deeply, completely. Good night.